Let's begin. Firstly, thank you for being here. I'm going to do my best to give you an experience here and some really good knowledge to take away. We're 10 past the hour. I'm just going to jump straight into the presentation now. As you know, I've called this Master Stress and Unlock Peak Performance. This is a breakthrough method to beat burnout. As you saw in the invites, we're going to be looking into what inflammation is, the 4 pillars of vitality, heart and brain coherence, and a guided experience to help you experience, stop saying experience, heart and brain coherence, to help you come out of fight or flight, and which is often referred to as sympathetic, and into parasympathetic dominance, meaning relax, regenerate, repair. So as always, I'd like to just give a very, very quick backstory as to how I came about doing this. And some of you know my story. In fact, you probably all know my story by now. I was suffering from very bad eczema. This is related to inflammation. That's why I bring this story in. I think just about everyone who works in holistic health comes with their own story of healing something. And for me, this was eczema. So this was me quite a few years ago when I had eczema all over my back. And I was always prescribed the same symptom masking treatments, which meant it would always come back. And these symptom masking treatments were steroid creams, which left me with permanent skin damage or pigmentation damage on my skin, prescription moisturizers full of toxic, harmful ingredients, and also antibiotics, which harm your gut microbiome, the very organ you want to heal with any kind of skin condition or any chronic inflammatory health condition for that matter. And I was always using the same basically treatment for about 30 years. I eased off it in my late 20s thinking the steroid creams just aren't good. I'd heard from, well, my sisters who both had it as well, that it wasn't good, and my naturopathic doctor aunt was easing me off them. But I didn't really understand what eczema was really about until my dad suffered a stroke. So he had this life-altering stroke, and as you can imagine, if you've known anyone who's had a stroke, it is life-altering. For him, it was kind of minor, but it was also life-altering because his brain just started to ebb away. It started to just kind of fall apart in time. But at the time of his stroke, I remember this weird event in my family home when he had actually shared with me that his sister, his naturopathic doctor sister, had told him a few years before his stroke, he'd had chronic inflammation and that his blood was toxic. And she said to him, Tony, you need to get the mercury out of your mouth. Your blood is toxic. And he ignored her advice. He trusted his normal doctor. He had his stroke. And I just remember this event in the family kitchen when he was actually making us tea and telling me this. And I just remember thinking, surely there's something going on here with inflammation and the stroke. And following my intuition, I decided to explore the world of inflammation. I went on a deep dive, and very, very quickly, I found out that inflammation was the underlying cause of his stroke, the hypertension that led to his stroke, the asthma he'd had since 12, and also the eczema I'd had my whole life. So what I did very quickly was, well, after realizing that this underlying cause was behind every symptom, which we know of as chronic illnesses or genetic diseases, really they're symptoms of inflammation. Once I discovered this, I thought, well, the best thing to do is to go on an anti-inflammatory diet and then lifestyle. And very quickly, my eczema went away. I can't say I don't like using the word cure ever, because cure suggests it will never come back. So any label of any symptom can return if the underlying cause returns. So if I ever get inflamed, I can have an eczema breakout. In fact, it even happened about 3 weeks ago when I landed in this house with dogs, and I thought my allergies to dogs had gone, but then I did some bioresonance scanning on me and found out that I had new parasites within about 3 or 4 days of landing here, which caused my skin to be very itchy again. So using that bioresonance technology, I was able to find out parasites. I've been using frequencies since, and also I've been using a parasite cleanse, like a little tincture, and now it's gone again. So the point of that story is our symptoms are there to tell us something. The chronic inflammation is like the underlying cause. And at the top, as you can see on this tree, we have every label of symptom you can think of, just about, when it comes to illness and dis-ease. And underneath, we have causes. So we have to figure out what is causing the inflammation, which is then causing the symptoms. And that's basically been my work for such a long time. So as you might guess, I healed my skin from within by healing my gut, by switching to an anti-inflammatory diet and lifestyle. And I realized that this one underlying cause was underlying everything, and thus it became my focus. So a marketer says to me, Neil, you're marketing to everyone, talking to no one. It's marketing 101, market to everyone, talk to no one, meaning this works for so many symptoms. But I've been so behind it, wanting to get this message across, because I've helped people with so many labels of illnesses now, from diabetes to pre-diabetes to high blood pressure to cholesterol to ulcerative colitis to rheumatoid arthritis to psoriasis, even cancer in one case. I don't like to say would never say I cured him. I was on his team. There's a number of us supporting him. And he's openly said I was his health coach during it. It's ultimately a detoxification and refueling journey that we went on, which is all about inflammation. So I went on a very deep dive into cancer as well and realized that cancer is also rooted in inflammation. So if every other illness can be healed by addressing inflammation, surely cancer can too. And that's what I found out. So it became my focus. So the Vitality Secret was my 2016 book. Vitality Code was my 2023 book. And that's me. All right. So what is inflammation? When I asked this question at UCLA, when I spoke about 4 years ago, most people, well, first of all, I said, who's heard of inflammation? And just about everyone put their hands up. And when I said, who can describe what it is? One person put their hand up. So out of you all, would anyone does anyone know what inflammation is? Inflammation is our immune system's response to what it perceives as an attack on the body. So any level of toxin can cause it. And it's also a perceived threat. So stress is ultimately a perceived threat. So we have physical threats and we have perceived threats. So that's why chronic inflammation creates chronic stress. Short bouts of stress can be a good thing, but it's when it's happening all the time, when the immune system is as if it's in constant overdrive, trying to protect us from a physical threat or a perceived threat. That's when it creates a stress response and inflammation as well. So chronic inflammation and stress go very, very hand in hand. Stress creates inflammation. And inflammation can even create stress. So it's almost like a two-way thing. But first up, it's our thoughts, it's our emotions, which then create the inflammation. Because it's as if the body is in survival mode, trying to protect us. And it's just, all it's doing is a very good thing. It's a healthy immune response. And it's wanting to protect us. It's wanting to keep us safe. But when this happens consistently, that's when the body presents symptoms to us to alert us that there's imbalances. So I see symptoms as one of the greatest gifts our body can give us, because how else would we know if we're out of balance? The body, knowing that we went from a sperm and an egg into these fully fledged humans, these walking miracles, it's quite incredible how we've been created from, these two things. Like there's a guiding intelligence that's created all of it. I think you're all on board with that. I think if for anyone watching the replay, if there wasn't a guiding intelligence, it'd be a very, very random act of creation. So if we can understand that there is a guiding force creating us from sperm and egg into these walking miracles, we can also probably get our head around that there needs to be a mechanism with which we can start to get an indication if the body's fallen out of balance. So that it does it by way of symptoms, and symptoms are therefore our friend. If we didn't have it, we'd never know. So, as we kind of covered, what is inflammation? It's your body's response to a physical threat or a perceived threat or a perceived threat. And it's also a deficiency of fundamental cell fuels. So I've covered the physical threat or perceived threat, although I've not got into detail in any of the physical threats, because that's a whole other webinar. I could talk for hours on that point. Just think of the word toxin, any form of toxin, which basically means something that's not in alignment with nature. It really can be that simple. I like to simplify things as best as I can. And in fact, a friend of mine and a client asked me a few years ago, what is a toxin? And I said, it's anything that's not in alignment with as we were created, as nature intended. So that covers so many things. Perceived threat, chronic stress, deficiency of cell fuels. At a very simple level, we need oxygen, we need water, we need nutrients, and we must be able to detoxify daily. And that means breathing, that means moving, that means allowing all of our detoxification organs to work. And all of our little cells, our 50 to 100 trillion cells, require this detoxification, or things back up, toxins back up, and we get sick. So there's other essentials we need, like sleep, we need grounding, we need sunlight. So it can really be simplified. And I don't think we were designed to need a PhD to operate these bodies. That's not to discredit, of course, any PhDs. I just don't think we, as the driver of the body, needs a doctorate to figure out how this thing works. So, yes, Alan.
So also, I would imagine erroneous thinking, which generates perceived threat or knocks you out of alignment. And that misguided thinking could probably be a good 30, 40, 50% of, or who knows what percentage, but substantial.
Absolutely. It's huge. As I'll come on to shortly, if we are constantly in a negative state, and if we are engaging with information which is going to put us into a fight or flight response, if we're watching the news, whether it's mainstream media or alternative news media, anything that brings our vibration down and we end up being in that vibration, that can actually drop it basically creates dissonance, it's disharmony in the body. And then that can start to weaken the immune system in time. Like living by the hormones of stress actually weakens the immune system. And a lot of us are kind of in fight or flight, like a moderate state of fight or flight, day to day, because we're doing so many things. We're responding to pressure, to timelines, to financial pressures, to family pressures, and kids if you've got kids, and everything else that goes with it. So it's as if we're kind of on this moderate fight or flight response. And one way of looking at that, this is a great question, Alan, because I mean we're going to explore it anyway, but I thought I'd just answer it now. If we could be consuming the most anti-inflammatory diet known to man, we could be drinking vegetable juices every single day, we could be getting plenty of sunlight, we could be grounding. But if we are chronically stressed, it's the stress response is kind of higher up on the hierarchy of healing, as I call it, than food down here. One of my clients, in fact, recently, a few days ago, we're 2 weeks in, and he tells me his eczema's gone, which is amazing. And it's been mostly down to his shift in awareness around what stress is, because most of our talks have been around stress. And since he's got the thing that I had my whole life, I'm able to relate to it so well. So he has barely changed his diet. He's just calmed his nervous system down. And it's like the eczema is just clearing up all by itself, which is for him huge. And a lot of this is training into a new way of thinking and a new way of approaching and perceiving his life experience, which I'll come on to in a moment. But thoughts, feelings, emotions, they are so key.
So if your kids or grandkids are leaving their room a total mess after you've told them to clean it up over and over again, and that's a trigger that you don't alchemize or neutralize, that can build stress. My wife endures that. And so an outlook that likes everything just in order, a place for everything, when things aren't in place, that could be a foundational stress inducer.
Absolutely. And I'll come on to this in a second, because I've got an example of this that I'll come on to. So symptoms are warning lights, and they give us an opportunity to explore what's creating the symptom. Like if the car breaks down, I love using car analogies throughout my whole book, The Vitality Code. I'm using car analogies because it's just so easy to relate with. If the car breaks down, we want to be taking our car to a mechanic so the mechanic can get under the hood, or under the bonnet, as we say in England, to find what's creating the warning light. What is causing that warning light to go off? It wouldn't be very useful if we took our car to the electrician and they rewire the light so it stopped flashing, or we just put a band-aid over the symptom. And that's kind of what's happening in the world of Western medicine. Now, of course, I always say this, Western medicine is phenomenal in emergencies. In fact, the next one, amazing in emergencies. and for getting us out of trouble, for out of pain, for enabling us to function and enabling us to have, sometimes God, quote unquote, one of my friends who's suffered really badly over the years, she says sometimes God is in the pill, meaning it can be a good thing at times. It's just that when we're using them chronically, that's when they start to create chronic damage in the body, because there isn't actually a single drug on the market that does not come with side effects. Without exception, every single drug comes with side effects. So that's why we live in a pill for a pill, or pill for an ill society, leading to a pill for a pill. And it's not unusual for people to be on a whole cocktail of drugs as they age, thinking they're just normal and on all these drugs, which are actually degrading their health and vitality. Every drug, when used chronically, will interfere with the gut microbiome. So we can't fix a symptom of inflammation with something that creates inflammation. And that's what's happening in the world of Western medicine and has been happening for the last 114 years. So we think the symptoms are getting better because the symptom eases. However, it's never addressed the underlying cause. So the underlying cause kind of gets worse over time. And then there's a new diagnosis a year or two down the road. So I'm all about getting to the root cause. Everything's about the root cause with this, because if we don't address the cause, it's almost like missing the entire point of the symptom. And the journey for vitality, the journey to explore this is actually really quite an enjoyable journey. It doesn't have to be a slog or a painful process. And I say this with my clients all the time, it gets to be a fun journey. And it is. And we learn these new tools. So just piggybacking on what Alan said earlier, there's our emotions and our thoughts play a huge role on our biology. And now I want to be talking about the stress response, the emotional response. So different events in our lives can cause a stress response. I use this example a lot because I think everyone can relate to this. I can relate to this. So when we're in traffic, is it the traffic that causes us stress? Well, first up, who finds traffic stressful? I can't see anyone's hands. Let's see. Who finds traffic? Yes, great. We all do. So is it the stationary cars causing us the stress, which is a neutral event, or is it our response to the traffic, the response to these stationary cars? Well, the answer is it's our response. What does it mean for us if we are unexpectedly late? And there could be two people who respond very differently to exactly the same external circumstance. So my favorite definition of stress is it's our internal response to external stress. And I got this from a book called Flow, Living at the Peak of Your Abilities by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. And it's just lodged in my mind ever since. And then attending Tony Robbins events, doing various transformational events, it's just kind of grown and grown. But it's all the same thing, really. Stress is our internal response to the external strain, and it's also our perception of whatever's happening around us, and it's the meaning that we give to anything. So there could be two people in exactly the same external circumstance in a traffic jam, both unexpectedly late for work, and without really giving it much thought, two people can respond differently. So one person can remain super calm, collected, might put some music on, they might call their boss if they're on the way to work and say, hey, I'm going to be late, and they'll chill out. I'll listen to music or a podcast, maybe the Vitality Secret podcast, and just enjoy that time. Use it, learn, but basically chill. Nothing happens with their nervous system. Another person can be exactly the same circumstance, and they start effing and blinding, and that means swearing. That's an English term. Start swearing, weaving in and out of traffic, cutting people up, causing road rage. And that is a response. And you can virtually see the veins fill up with blood as the blood rushes up to the head. And you can see the veins pop out of their head as they are responding as if the world is about to end. Um, can anyone relate to this? Like understanding.
It's fundamental.
Sorry?
It's fundamental, and each has their opportunity to mediate that knee-jerk reaction.
Yes.
And the more they're aware of it and can put it in its proper place, the calmer and less stressed.
Exactly. I wish I knew about this when I was I don't know, in my 20s, because I'm particularly through it. If I was I used to have road rage when I was in my 20s.
There's some
And it was not badly, but I'd be like, get out the way, what are you doing? Why are you in the outside lane? Why are you a snail in the outside lane? Move over. That kind of thing.
yeah, so your skin broke out after.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and it's that is also an emotional response. So if I knew about this growing up, I'd be so much calmer. And then when we're calm, we actually reset the nervous system or allow it to function. So it's always a learning curve. I can't say I'm an absolute master at this. I'm not the absolute best, but it's so much better than
Neil,
when I was in my 20s. Yes, Michelle.
Neil, if I may, this would have come in handy last night as I was trying to explain my college girl independent variables,
Oh
right?
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that reaction right there, I'd never thought of using an example like this. We can't
Yeah,
control the cars, but we can control our reaction to the traffic, right? So,
exactly. And we do have that choice. I wish I knew that we had the choice. I just thought, oh, it just is.
ah,
That is what it is. And we can take a few deep breaths and go, you know what? I'm going to choose to react in a different way. And it's so empowering because when we're in this fight or flight response as well, the creative part of the brain stops working, like it shuts down because it's not needed. In a fight or flight, survival is what is needed. So the creative problem solving part of the brain isn't active. So it's not useful if we're just in a fight or flight trying to get some deadlines down because it actually stops the brain working as well. So there's ways, there's techniques that we can go, okay, how can I just surrender to this thing? How can I just enjoy this moment right now? Last night, with all this tech stuff going on with Zoom and then the live LinkedIn stuff, I found myself, as I'm preparing this stress talk, I'm starting to kind of respond and I'm thinking, Neil, it's okay. It's just technology. I'm getting late. It's getting late. 1:30 in the end. I wanted to be in bed. And there's meetings happening. So every now and again, I'd be like, Neil, check. So
if I may, Maxwell Maltz, who wrote Psycho-Cybernetics and writes the things, but is very insightful. But he posited that which creates a fight or flight reaction, if it's in a controlled service setting like a TENS machine or a PEMF machine, and if you're not really subjected to having to run or freeze, it also can trigger a regenerative reaction in the body. So if you properly handle this type of input, it can actually trigger an accelerated insight, relaxation, reduction of stress.
Yeah, absolutely. Short bouts can actually be a beneficial thing. The Wim Hof breathing is a little bit like that, which I was thinking we might do a little bit of today, but we might go straight into the heart and brain and just show you how quickly we can reset without doing rounds of breathing. But yes, absolutely, Alan. And short bouts of stress can enable us to get things done. Like deadlines can enable us to get stuff done, and it can be used in a positive way if we're mindful about it. It's just that when we're like on that kind of on the edge and we're about to flip out, that's when we could just use with a bit of breathing and slow breathing to just put the body into parasympathetic in seconds. It can be seconds. And if you use left nose breathing, that is even better. So let me go out to the presentation. There's the definition I just shared with you. It's our internal response to external strains. It's how we respond to events in our lives. It's not the events themselves, it's the meaning that we give. So we give meaning to anything based on our life experience, based on traumas that we've had, based on everything that's happened to this date. So what often happens is we get triggered by things that have happened in our past or even in ancestral times, but let's keep it down to earth. We have traumas. Well, the science of epigenetics has actually shown us that we inherit traumas as well, but let's keep it down to earth. We can be triggered by things because of this trapped energy, which is also part of the program when I work with my clients. But understanding that we trap this energy when we have traumas in our lives, and that electromagnetic energy can get stored anywhere in the body. And then when we experience life, similar vibratory events, we then get re-triggered and then re-triggered and then re-triggered unless we resolve the underlying trapped emotions and energy. So this has been such a game changer. It calms our entire nervous system as we do all of this stuff. This is Bruce Lipton. He's one of my favorite people in this field. I call him the father of epigenetics in my book and in the Vitality Code. He says the moment you change your perception is the moment you rewrite the chemistry in your body. You know, coming back to the example earlier of we can be consuming an anti-inflammatory diet and be fit and be getting plenty of sunlight and be grounding, but if we are chronically stressed, it doesn't matter. It's, as Joe Dispenza puts it, it's we'll just, if we're having organic this and organic that and organic everything and organic, it gets a bit ridiculous with it, we end up creating organic stress hormones. It doesn't really matter because the hierarchy of healing, it goes physical, emotional, mental, energy. So we need to just be mindful of that. In fact, my client who I spoke with a few days ago, he said the last time he went gluten-free, it made no difference. But it's probably, he actually tuned in. He said, actually, I was very stressed at the same time. So it doesn't really matter. So we can do so much in our bodies by changing our perception of what is happening around us. So let's start to take the woo-woo out of spirituality. What I'm loving about the work of Joe Dispenza, Bruce Lipton, Greg Braden, Nassim Haramein, any spiritual teacher you can think of, is there is so much quantum physics now supporting fundamentals of spirituality. Like we are all connected. We are all one. We are all quantum entangled. Quantum entanglement is literally the interconnectedness of all life, all things, everything. And that's science. We also know scientifically that different emotions, A, have different frequencies, and B, lead to a different hormone cascade compared with others. And very simply, as Bruce Lipton says here, love versus fear. The hormone cascade that follows when we are in a love state, and we don't have to be in a partnership or, on a wedding, at a wedding day or at a honeymoon. We don't have to be that in that state. We can connect to love in ourselves by connecting to the heart. Now, when that happens, we secrete dopamine and oxytocin and vasopressin and growth hormone. Like love literally heals. And it creates this healing environment with all of these. There's way more chemicals that happen as well, but these are the main ones. This is why when we stay connected with our heart and we slow down the breathing, which we'll come onto in a moment, we create a healing environment in the body, which is regenerative. And what work of Joe Dispenza has recently found, and I've been to a few of his events, his advanced retreats, his scientific team has found that in a heightened, like in an elongated state of meditation and heart and brain coherence specifically, if we maintain that, we secrete a pharmacy of chemicals superior to any drug by connecting with love. I think the Beatles were onto something when they said love is all we need. So conversely to that is fear. If we're chronically stressed, we live by the hormones of stress, and this ends up causing harm to the immune system over time. So we end up releasing chemicals like cortisol, cytokines and histamine, etc. And the cytokine storm is what was happening during COVID. Like, a lot of people were watching the news and getting so scared with everything happening. They can psychosomatically create COVID. We can do that purely with our minds. It's called the nocebo effect. So, during COVID, I'm just saying to people in my network, just be calm, be cool, get sunlight, get grounded, anti-inflammatory, just be cool. And of course, Bruce Lipton was saying this as well. Like, let's not let the nocebo effect take over. So, introducing the heart brain. Does anyone have any questions? I wish I could see your faces as I was presenting. I don't know why I can't. Okay, I think we're good. All righty, let's the heart brain. In 1991, a scientist in Montreal discovered that the heart has a brain in it. 40,000 sensory neurites is what they're called, which are brain-like cells in the heart. They act independently from the head brain. This is real, solid, unequivocal science. So there's been anecdotal stories of people receiving hearts in heart transplants from a deceased person, obviously. You're not going to receive a heart from a person who's alive. So you receive a heart from a deceased person and you can develop these new memories or addictions. There are these stories that a few people have spoken about when someone's got a new heart and they've got these new addictions, like liking chicken nuggets and really random stuff when they never used to love chicken nuggets. And then there's lots of anecdotal stuff. There's even a story of a murder that happened, and then the person that received the heart from the murdered person was having all these dreams and was able to then go to a horrific scene and basically went to the police station and gave an account of the description of the person in these dreams. And so the artist, whatever they're called, was able to create this image, and it was put out, and apparently the murderer came forward because this person who had received the heart from the deceased person was able to recreate the event to this investigator, let's call it an investigator, and the person came forward. This has been told a number of times by Greg Braden, and I think Bruce Lipton's talked about it as well. In fact, probably Joe Dispenza. It's quite a big story. So the heart has memory, is the point. And what's really cool about knowing this is it also, Heart Math Institute has shown that the direction of communication, the majority of communication goes from the heart brain to the head brain. So it comes into the heart, it actually goes to the gut, and then up to the brain, the head brain. So we have the head brain, which is the programmed, learned intellect. And then we have the heart, which is our connection to, let's just say, another form of intelligence. And then we have the gut, and it's like the heart and gut work closely together to create our intuition, which we kind of process with the logical mind. So when we say things like follow your heart, what does your heart say? And in indigenous cultures, they say the head should be in service to the heart, not the other way around. And in the Western world, we've been so used to working from the head brain that we forget that we have this other intelligence. And of course, they've known about this in indigenous times since the beginning of time. It's taken the Western world a little bit of time to catch up. I guess we need science, real science, to prove these things. So we do know, thanks to the Heart Math Institute for 30 years, who studied this heart-brain connection, that we have our intuition is really mostly fueled via the heart. And it's our access to our intuition. So if we ever need a question answered, if we've got a pressing decision to make, there are ways to access the heart, and we can do heart and brain and coherence. And we could even do this now. You could think of a problem that you need solving. You could just think of an easy one. Don't go trying to solve a world problem, but something in your life, a decision you've got to make. Before we do this heart and brain coherence, think of that. And then we're going to do heart and brain coherence, connecting with the heart and the brain, slowing down the breathing. That's what we're going to do. We're going to slow down the breathing, and we're going to connect with the heart. We're going to connect with love. And that's what we're going to do. And just by doing that, we start to create a healing environment in the body, and then we can access our intuition. So the heart does have its own intelligence. So now let's do a little bit of heart and brain. Oh, this is a really important slide here. So this is from the HeartMath Institute. If we are in a state of stress, we have a heart rate variability, which is demonstrated in the top graph. And HRV, heart rate variability, is a very important biomarker for so many other biological functions in the body, like so many. So we want to be having a heart rate variability that looks like it's underneath. So the top one is fight or flight, stress response. The one underneath is relax, regenerate, repair, and it also facilitates brain function. And above, you can actually see how the stress response inhibits brain function. And up below, you can see how it's regenerative and facilitates brain function. So even if we think we have no choice but to be really stressed right now, we can remind ourselves that it gets us nowhere. We can actually go, okay, how's that serving me right now? Last night, I was coaching myself as I was up late. And even just before the session today, when the tech things weren't happening, I'm always kind of coaching myself on this thing. So it's a practice, but it's once we get it, it's really, it's a great practice. So what I was thinking we could do is do a bit of extended breathing beforehand, but you know what? We don't need to do the breathing beforehand. When I guide our breathing group in the mornings, we do 4 rounds of Wim Hof, and then we follow it with heart and brain coherence. But I just want to show us that we can do this without doing the quite intense breathing. With that said, I wanted this image here because even just a few, like 3 deep breaths through your nose can change your nervous system. Like, can we check in for a second how we're all feeling now? I've just thrown so much information at you like a fire hose. How are you feeling? Because I'd like you to check in with yourself now, and then I'd like to check in 4 minutes time, just to say how you're feeling. So if you could like you don't have to share, but just kind of make a note to yourself how you're feeling now. You might go, this crazy bald guy's been throwing so much information at me. I'm really overwhelmed and I'm meant to be calm. Or just be going, this is interesting information. Whatever it is, check in now. Also, have a little think of a question you'd like to have answered. Just have it in your mind. Again, like a really, not a world-changing idea, but just a small decision. And at the end, I'd like you to just have that in your mind now. And at the end, I'd like you to ask that question again. And the first thing, just have your hand on your heart. And the first thing that comes to you without going through the brain, it's like an intelligence that comes into the heart first before it goes to the brain. See if you can get an answer to a challenge that you have right now or a problem that you need solved. Just see. Can't guarantee anything, but just see if we can work with this. So what I've done for us is, and what I'm going to do is share the heart and brain coherence that I share after breathing, but we're not going to do the breathing first. So what I'd like to do first, let's go back to the thing, the image, or rather I will. So first of all, I just like, you might want to just kind of, first of all, relax, and then just have you don't have to have your hand on your heart at the beginning, because the first bit is actually slowing down your breathing. So if you just take some deep breaths, so you might want to do 5 counts in. So 5 in, into your lower belly, hold it, and then you do 5 out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you might want to blow all the air out of your lower belly. Just imagine your lower belly like a balloon. And then breathe in again through your nose, slowly. All the way in, 5 in, and then you hold it. And then exhale again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe in, all the way into your lower belly. Hold. And just take note already how you're feeling, and then let it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's do that again. So into your lower belly. Imagine a baby breathing into their lower belly. That's what we want to be doing, because shallow breathing takes us into fight or flight, and this takes us into parasympathetic. So all the way in. Hold it. Notice your brain, notice your mind, notice what's happening in your body, and then exhale again. So what this breathing does, as we slow down the breathing like this, we are communicating with the body that we are safe. That's what we're doing. There's a message that we are communicating with our body's intelligence that we are safe. So let's do that once more. Breathe in, 5 in. Pull in and hold. And then out again. And now just allowing your breathing to return to its normal pace. Let's just sit with this energy for a moment. Notice how your body feels, the state of your mind. Breathing calmly. Just be aware of the stillness of this present moment. Fill your lungs up every now and again completely into your lower belly. Now what we're going to do is drop into our hearts to create coherence between our hearts and our brains. So placing your hand on your heart to bring your attention to your heart. Start to become aware of your heart. And start to take some deep breaths in. Do 5 counts in and 5 counts out. 5 in. 5 out. 5 in. 5 out. I invite you to really tune in to the magnificence of your heart, the fact that it's beating all by itself 24/7 without you having to tell it to do anything. Electrically charging everything in your body, allowing your body to function, and it's beating all by itself. Now in that beautiful state, I invite you to think of someone or something that's going to help you to get into an even deeper state of appreciation or gratitude. Maybe a person, a memory, an event that had you just filled with one of these emotions as you're breathing deeply into your heart. ready, just slowly wiggle your fingers and toes, come back into your body. And open your eyes and come back. So how are you feeling? Welcome back. I imagine you're feeling a new sense of energy, a calmness, a tranquility. What's just happened in your body is quite interesting. And research has shown that when we do this for a little longer, we can actually improve our immune system for up to 6 hours, which is rather extraordinary. Imagine doing this twice a day or 3 times a day. This alone can create magic in your body. So if you'd like a recording of this, please let me know. I can send it to you. And now, how can I support you further? As you might know, I offer a free community, and really what I'd like to offer you now is something more than that, and I'd like to offer you a complimentary power-up session, which I normally charge $250 for. And in this session, we're actually going to create for you a game plan, a GPS. We're going to go through each pillar of vitality: the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the energetic. And we're going to see where you might be lacking, where you're under, where you need most attention. And at the very least, you'll be leaving with a new, freshened perspective as to how you can go forward, feeling empowered around your health. And of course, if you'd like my support after that, I will openly offer that either in a private setting or in a group setting, really whatever works for you. So thank you for being here, and do let me know if you have any questions. My email is neil@vitalitysecret.com. Otherwise, thank you, and I hope you enjoyed that and found it valuable.